No matter what type of business you run, there will come a time when a customer cancels, changes their mind, or wants a refund. In today's video, I'll show you how to record customer credits and refunds in QuickBooks Online so your books stay accurate and your customer accounts up to date. In our example, the customer prepaid for a 1-hour tennis lesson, but he couldn't make it because he got sick. He wants to reschedule the lesson once he feels better, so the business owner issued a credit for a future lesson. Here we have the initial invoice and payment of $90 that was made in advance of the lesson. To record the credit for this missed lesson, we'll click on Create and then Credit Memo. And then we'll select the customer, James Lewis. The credit memo date was October 18th. And the product or service was a 1-hour tennis lesson for $90, and then we'll save and close. When we take a look at the customer's details, we can see a credit memo of $90, which can be applied to a future lesson. By default, QuickBooks automatically applies credits to open invoices. I'm going to turn this setting off so that we can choose which invoice we want to apply a credit to. To do this, we'll click on the gear icon and then Account and Settings. Then we'll click on Advanced. Then we'll scroll down until we reach the Automation section. We'll click Edit, and then we're going to turn off Automatically Apply Credits, and then Save, and Done. The customer is feeling better and is ready for his first tennis lesson. Let's walk through how to use the credit. We'll create a new invoice by clicking on the drop-down arrow and then selecting Invoice. And this will be for our customer, James Lewis. The invoice date is October 20th, and we're going to select the product or service, 1-hour tennis lesson for $90, and then we'll save and close. We'll connect the credit memo with the new invoice by clicking on Create and then Receive Payment. Then we'll select the customer, James Lewis. And here we have the invoice for $90 for the 1-hour tennis lesson, which is connected to the credit memo for $90. You notice that the amount received is 0. That's because we're using the credit instead of a new payment. Then we'll click Record and Close. When we review the customer details again, we can see that the credit memo has been applied to the invoice, so we no longer owe the customer. Let's say that instead of using the credit on his account, the customer wanted his money refunded to him. In this case, we have a credit memo which we're going to refund by check. So we're going to click on Create and then Check. And we're going to be paying James Lewis from the Chase checking account on October 18th. The check number will be 33. And we're going to use the category Accounts Receivable. And we'll add a description. So we'll say lesson refunded, and that's for $90. And then we'll save and close. To connect the credit memo to the refunded amount, we'll click on Create and then Receive Payment. Then we'll select our customer, James Lewis, and here we have the check number 33 for $90, and it's connected to the credit memo for $90, and then we'll record and close. Now, taking a look at the customer details, we can see that the credit memo has been applied to check number 33. Now, sometimes a customer is never issued a credit. They just want their money back. Let's walk through how to record a refund properly. I created a new invoice and payment for a 1-hour tennis lesson on October 22nd. As you can see here, we'll record the refund by clicking on Create and then Refund Receipt. And this is going to be for a customer, James, on October 23rd. You can choose whichever account you're refunding from. In this case, we're going to pay James in cash, and we're going to pull from our cash account, so cash on hand. We're not using a check, so I'm going to delete the check number. And this is a refund for a 1-hour tennis lesson for $90, and then we'll save and close. It says the refund was successfully issued. Now please note, this only records the refund. We still need to give James the $90 in cash. And then I'll click OK. Under the customer details, we can see the refund for $90. You would follow these same steps if you used a sales receipt instead of an invoice. For our final example, we have an invoice from October 27th for $90. The customer paid $115, so we're going to record the payment. We'll click on Receive Payment, and the customer was James Lewis. He paid using cash, and that was deposited to the Chase checking account. It wasn't $90, it was $115 that we received. So we can see that the invoice was paid in full. However, we also have a $25 credit on his account. So we'll record and close. Here we can see the invoice marked paid and the $25 credit. Now we'll click on create and then expense. And we're going to be paying James Lewis from the Chase checking account on October 28th. We'll be using cash. For the category, we'll select accounts receivable and we'll add a description, refund for overpayment, and that's going to be for $25, and then we'll save and close. For the customer details, we can see that the $25 has been paid. However, this is only recorded. We still need to give James the $25. The $25 credit still appears on the account, so now we need to connect the two. So we'll click on create and then receive payment, and we'll select our customer, James Lewis. And here we have the expense, so the $25 cash payment and the overpayment of $25, which was a credit. So now we're going to zero out his account by recording and closing. Now we can see that the status for the October 27th payment has been changed to closed. If you only need to credit or refund a partial amount, just adjust the dollar value. The process is exactly the same. Now you know how to record customer credits and refunds in QuickBooks Online. Following these steps keeps your books clean and your financials accurate. If you'd rather have a professional handling your bookkeeping, I'd love to help. You can schedule a free consultation call using the link in the description below.